Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jason Maganoy, and I'm the publisher of Maclean's magazine. And this is Maclean's first person. And for Maclean's, we talk to incredible people at the front lines of the innovation economy doing great work. It's designed for us to get to know them, learn more about what they're working on. And today we have Dana Stephenson, co-founder and CEO of Riipen. In terms of the bio, pretty incredible. Dana is the co-founder and CEO of Riipen. Dana learned firsthand the difficulties students would face transitioning from education into a relevant, meaningful career upon graduation. Upon graduation, he and a few of his classmates combined their talent and passion, and he started on a path to help improve the education and recruitment systems so that future generations could smoothly transition into successful career paths, while companies could easily find the talent required to fuel their future growth and success. Together with his peers, Riipen was launched. Riipen is a future of work ed tech platform for experiential learning that connects learners from all backgrounds to employers from all industries. Riipen is now the world's largest online marketplace for work integrated learning and has supported over 164,000 learners to connect with a network of over 44,000 employers, resulting in over 18.4 million hours of experiential learning to date. Dana, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
So that sounds awesome. That sounds awesome. So my first question is two-pronged. My first question is, how are you doing? Like, how are you? How's the year been going so far? And then my second question is, like, we touched upon it in the bio, but man, I'd love to learn more about what Ripen is and what you do. So that's my first question.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for asking. I'm doing well. I'm excited. I'm optimistic. Obviously, there's no doubt a whole bunch of challenges happening out there in the ecosystem. We are living in interesting, challenging, and unprecedented times, but with all challenges comes opportunity. And so I'm a huge optimist. I'm excited about what's happening out there. I'm excited about the new innovations coming out into the ecosystem and the transformation that we're seeing across the economy.
Mm. So tell us about your career. We touched upon it in the bio. What was that aha moment that made you go, you know what, I'm gonna create this business with my colleagues?
Well, well, thank you for that. And hearing the bio always brings me back. It's interesting because at the time, we're going back now to 2012. My business partner and I we took a little bit of a different path going through our higher education. We both took time, we both worked during high school, we both took time off between high school and university. We worked throughout university, sometimes taking semesters off to work. So by the time we got into our business program, we actually had quite a bit of work experience compared to many of our peers. We're quite a bit older as well, so we're taking a longer pathway. But in our academic program, there was something called co-op, which is a full-time work opportunity that's related to your studies that students take to help them make them more employable post-graduation. And one of the things that we noticed is that many of our peers, this is back then in 2012, many of our peers were facing this challenge of how do I get a job without experience? How do I get experience without a job? Of course, co-op was meant to solve that problem, but co-op also created a new problem. How do I get a co-op without experience? How do I get experience without a co-op? And so quickly realized that we were, shocked to find out how many of our peers were already in their third year of university and had little, or in some cases, no work experience. That was crazy for us because we had just taken such a different path. But we also quickly realized that not everyone had the luxury or the desire to do to take the same pathway that we took. So we started thinking to ourselves, as we talked to more and more students, we kept hearing the same thing over and over again. No doubt that many of them faced barriers that we didn't face, but we heard over and over and over again, if I could just get my foot in the door, if I could just get my foot in the door with a company and I could get that first experience, I could leverage that experience to land the next experience. If someone would just give me a chance to prove myself. And so we started thinking to ourselves, why aren't there more opportunities for students to get experiences earlier on throughout their education pathway, more frequently, setting them up to land that co-op or that internship or that full-time position? And what we really landed on there, thinking through more flexible approaches, because we learned that lots of businesses wanted to work with students, but they, especially the smaller businesses, they just thought, hey, where am I going to find the time? Where am I going to make sure that I have enough work for the student? How am I going to set them up for success? I don't have the infrastructure. A lot of barriers, a lot of friction, in that process of finding, identifying, recruiting, training, and onboarding those first, internship programs. So, and we found the same thing, many barriers for students facing, mostly access, a huge supply, not enough supply of these kinds of internship opportunities. And so we really thought to ourselves, what if we could take the internship model and redesign it into more of a project-based experience that was shorter, that was more flexible, that was there was no photocopying or fetching coffee. It was all based on deliverables. So taking what you're learning in the classroom, taking what you're learning throughout your education pathway, and applying that to solve real business challenges in your community or around the world. Then we could get more of those out of companies. And we were right. When you went to companies and asked them for internships, you got a lot of often would get excuses. If you went to companies and asked them for projects, they all had a long list of things that they were interested in innovating on or taking advantage of or researching. And then we could take those projects, we could partner with academic institutions, and our model was really focused around embedding those project-based experiences directly into the curriculum so that students could have access as they went through their education pathway, taking what they're learning, applying it, building up a portfolio, building social capital, building experience, and then leveraging that to land meaningful employment opportunities.
Wow, so that sounds incredible. And
Thank you.
that is because your journey too, like your journey was like very not, it's not A to B. Everyone has sort of a different pathway to A to B. I remember when I was graduating school, holy man, I had like zero job experience.
Right.
And I remember one of my first jobs, I was a communications coordinator, and they told me, "Hey, can you throw a press conference?" Absolutely not. So I literally had to make up how to, like, I had some papers to help me, but man, like also tying it to projects and just sort of
Yes.
the speed at which you can add value for an organization is very, very quick if you're just attaching to projects in that way.
Yeah, we'll talk about random pathways for a second. When I was going up through high school, I was very much physics, math, science. That was everything that I was interested in. I really wanted to go into engineering. Both my parents never went to university or college, and so jumping and taking that leap right away was to be honest, it was a big leap for me at the time. And of course, financially, wanting to be more secure. So I didn't go to university right away. I took a job. I actually worked in construction, figured that, getting into construction, working with my hands, doing framing was what I was doing at the time, would kind of align with, helping me get exposure to what, some forms of engineering would be down the road. Of course, good money as well. But it was actually while I was working that job, I was playing football and I broke my thumb and I couldn't work anymore. And so I was laying on my mom's couch, probably complaining, driving her crazy. And she found an ad in the paper that said free sales training for a sales job. And of course, I was extremely shy. I mean, the idea of me going out and doing sales, customer facing role was terrifying. But I went in, took my mom's advice and said, look, it's paid training. Just get up off the couch, get in there. In those first 2 weeks are human skills, durable skills, which so many employers are talking about, critical thinking, creativity, communication, collaboration, those relational skills, listening, empathy. I learned more about that I felt could apply in my day-to-day life than what I felt like I learned my entire high school career. And that completely set me on a new path. I ended up going to deciding I wanted to go into business. I wanted to leverage those human skills, those transferable to help pay my way through it. Those are the experiences that I got. And it's interesting thinking about this now, how much in an era of these kinds of skills, these human skills, these listening, leadership, empathy, human judgment, the skills that AI can amplify, but really can't replace. How much those are coming to the forefront. And so I think a lot about this is like, how do we get students exposure to that earlier on, so that when they come to these challenges like you faced when you graduated, which are like, hey, can you launch this new thing? It's like, I don't exactly have the experience, but I have transferable skills. And my transferable skills are going to help me figure this out. I've got access, let's be honest, to AI to help me figure out how I might run a press conference and get best practices and do the research. But then I'm going to think critically about that. And I'm going to use my own judgment. And I'm going to adapt and I'm going to figure out how to do this. And I think that's the world that we're all starting to enter, is a world where roles are going to be changing, skills and demand are going to be changing faster and faster than ever before, and we need to be preparing learners and workers for this, this world of uncertainty, this world of rapid evolution, rapid change, constantly reskilling, upskilling, learning, unlearning, relearning. And so, the model of experiential learning is just that is at its core.
Well, I mean, even looking at your path, just sort of saying, I worked with my hands and then I worked in sales and I developed all these other types of skills. That is just incredibly smart. Your business sounds very thought out, like very well thought out. But then you touched upon it. Like, well, I would hope so. I would hope that it's well thought out. But
Everyone always thinks it's a so thank you for saying that, and it was extremely thoughtful in the way that we're extremely thoughtful in the way that we approach this challenge and this problem. Of course, I think like every business, it looks like this. It's actually a little bit of this.
so
Uh,
and it's fun because you have this. So everything, like, you really understand the experience, like the user experience. You have this very thought out sort of
mhm.
pathway for the business. It's a very clear value proposition. And then now you touched upon it, AI. I mean,
Yeah.
ChatGPT, like OpenAI released that agent yesterday that does life for you. Like, I'm not quite sure how I'm supposed to enter an environment, but sort of like this mega trend technology that's just reshaping productivity, reshaping the workforce really fast. So, like, what is your POV on that? Like, how do you see AI helping versus hurting workers?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we've all heard the I think what a lot is on a lot of folks' mind and right now, and if not, it should be, is, I think we've all heard this saying where AI is not going to take your job, but someone who can leverage AI better than you may. So, where I see this helping workers is access to information, access to a thought partner, access to a coach, access to even support with mental health. This has been democratized in a way that we've never seen before. Now, this isn't to replace the human side of what you can gain from actually working with a real live person in mental health work, but having that kind of support system is super interesting. Being able to go access and, rather than, being able to access new skills, new learning at your fingertips, a thought partner for your writing, a thought partner for your research. I find that this is going to have huge productivity gains, huge opportunities of helping those who face barriers to accessing education, accessing training, now having that at their fingertips. And that's going to be, a really strong positive for the world. Of course, the challenge is on a couple things. One, there's a lot of talk these days of too much reliance on AI, and especially in higher education today, and especially in K-12 as well. We talk a lot about this, that AI is, creating this notion of cognitive offloading. That if you're just too quick to jump into AI, you're
Mm.
not thinking about the problem, you're not, going through that friction that happens in the learning process, and you're just taking everything that AI spits back out for you, copy pasting it, launch, throwing it, whether it's your assignment or whether it's your job, and putting it in without really thinking about it. You are, and the research is showing that you're going to lose your critical thinking and a lot of the skills that make us uniquely human that AI can't replace. So I think if you become too reliant on it, that can hurt workers. A lot of folks are really pushing brain first, work hard first, then work smart. Remember, they used to always say, work smarter, not harder. I think now you have to work hard and then smart, and then smarter, not harder. At the same time, it's sort of like an evolution there. But there's no doubt that there's an enormous amount of the economy, an enormous amount of industry and jobs that are going to be disrupted, throughout this process. And so, work that is more manual, that is more repetitive, that is these, lower level tasks that do not take a lot of those, those skills that make us uniquely human. Those are at risk of displacement. There's no doubt about it.
So, I mean, I like the way that you position that, the friction of learning. Like, that's a really good way to position that. And that takes me to my next question, which is, you just there's a lot to unpack there. You described lots of different things all happening at the same time.
That's right.
And that's nuts. Like, obviously, when there's a mega trend happening to us, everything happens all at the same time. But then there you are. Like I'm a worker. This is where I am. This is me sort of doing my work, living my life. What do I do? Like, what am I supposed to do in an environment like this? How do I future-proof myself? Like, how do I make sure that I'm not at risk of being sort of like eliminated by AI?
Yeah,
And so as a worker, what should I do? What are ways that I can build resilience in an economy like this now?
that's a great question. So as a worker, I think and I'll say learner worker, learner earner, sometimes we call that, because I think we all need to be adopting a lifelong learning mindset. So number one, I think everyone needs to get really comfortable with, when I was in sales training, it was all ABC, always be closing. I think the era that we're moving into now is all, ABL, always be learning.
Right.
We need to, adopt this lifelong learning mindset, be really comfortable with the idea that over and over again, you're going to have to learn. We need to help people learn. Be really we need to help people learn to learn, be comfortable learning to unlearn and learning to relearn over and over again as things rapidly change. As a worker, you should be focusing on and thinking about how do you invest in these, in these skills, whether it's continuous learning, lifelong learning, whether it's the work experience that you're gaining, whether it's how work with your employer to reorganize your role, but figure out how you really you invest in yourself in the skills that make you uniquely human. Again, the creativity, the problem solving, the interpersonal communication, leadership, empathy, human judgment. Invest in those skills, reorganize your role so that you're focusing on those, and AI is helping you amplify those skills, but it's not replacing it. And then, of course, in all of that, in order to be extremely employable and be able to adapt and have adaptive capacity and be able to take advantage of the productivity gains in this new era, you got to build the digital literacy skills. Be really comfortable learning new technology platforms, new technologies that come out. Be really comfortable, learning how to leverage AI in your role, leverage tools that leverage AI in your role, and invest in that kind of ongoing training, even on your own by learning through doing, which is basically the definition of experiential learning.
So, I mean, you've touched upon it, which is just this idea of like, okay, so it sounds like I've always, I always find it challenging though, because whenever I sort of see what's happening in terms of the exponential speed at which this technology is evolving, like, how do you learn in an environment like that though? Like, it's like I can go and I can learn. I just learned Zoom. Zoom's done. Like, we're on Zoom right now, but like, we already moved on to like Grok has like there's like an AI girlfriend right now like I can interact with, right? So there's this bit where the megatrend's moving at a certain speed. You know, yeah, I'll double down on digital literacy. I'll double down on these certain types of skills. I'll try to be more empathetic, all of these things. But is that enough? Like
Yeah.
can the learning be as fast enough to keep up with the speed of just the change in the world?
So I definitely believe so. But I think the way that we've been programmed, or the way that we've set up students and adults and workers to train and learn, is that system is broken. Going into a classroom and getting lectured, memorizing from a textbook and regurgitating that into an assignment or a multiple choice test or a paper, or going online and being given a bunch of content and then filling out a couple of multiple choice tests to prove that you have that you've mastered the competency before moving to the next module, and just like, tick, 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 going through those to prove that you have it. That system is broken. I mean, you talked about the AI agent. It wasn't that long ago that Stanford just released a recording of AI agents literally going through these online courses and just bing, 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 do it on behalf of the student while the student's in the other room baking pizza. So, that era is I think is over, and needs to evolve very quickly, or we're going to have a ton of students who are wasting their time and wasting their resources. The way of the future of how we keep up when things are moving this fast is learning by doing, is learning in the flow of work, is learning by being faced with real problems and actually solving those problems. Now that can be simulated, so there's lots of investment being made into simulated types of experience. Pilots have simulations that they run to prepare them for through pilot school before they actually fly a plane, because of course flying a plane has some real consequences. But then there are opportunities like on our platform where you take what you're learning and immediately you're applying that with a real company, and you're solving real challenges. You're, learning digital marketing, then working with a company to help them grow their market share, doing research for them, coming up with ideas, pitching them, getting feedback on those ideas, iterating, demonstrating empathy, demonstrating communication skills, demonstrating sometimes in some cases conflict resolution, whether that's with your team or whether that's with the company, coming back and pitching that again, demonstrating that you can change and adapt, throughout the project. That is the new era of learning. And that way, when you're learning that way, when you're engaging in that kind of, whether it's within your own company, doing projects in other areas within your own company to continue evolving and leveraging new skills, or whether it's for other companies, that is the new way that you can continue adding things at a pace where industry is, where at the speed the industry is actually evolving at.
So that takes me to my next question, which is this concept of real time. So like real time is fast now. Like real time is real time. But on the flip side of that, like even hearing like your model, just like companies companies are at real time, but companies are slow too. Like it
Yeah,
must take forever to try to get a company to even work in your platform. We have an AI policy. It's
yeah,
already out of date. Like, you know what I mean? We companies move slow. So look, we have individual workers. They understand. Look, I gotta learn fast. I gotta get digitally savvy. I gotta do all these things. Companies don't move that way, I feel.
yeah,
They're way slower. So how do you help companies? How do you convince them like, hey, listen, like real time is different now.
yeah,
How do they keep up with the new real time? Like, how do you help
yeah.
companies do that?
That's a great question. I think, obviously, I think talking about size of company has a lot of pros and cons. I think a lot of the larger companies, they have the infrastructure, they have the resources they have the knowledge internally and systems to be able to invest in digital transformation. Yes, there's bureaucracy. That's the con. There's red tape. There's a lot of challenges in that sense. Smaller companies are more nimble. They're more agile. They can move quickly. They can make decisions quickly. There's not an enormous amount of bureaucracy. Challenges often they don't have the same access to resources. They don't have the same access to the infrastructure that is going to help them set up. So there's pros and cons on both. But I think companies are, the same way that I said earlier, AI is not going to take your job, but someone who can do AI, who can leverage AI better than you will take your job. I think most companies are starting to realize pretty quickly right now that AI is not going to crush your company, but a new competitor or an existing competitor who knows how to leverage AI better than you will. So companies are starting to realize that we need to move more quickly. We need to figure out, I mean, obviously, ethically and responsibly, and investing in proper protocol around security is absolutely important. And developing these kinds of systems and learning from best practices from others to make sure that you're not, breaking things and making mistakes. Um, but companies are, taking this very seriously and learning how to move more quickly. In our world, we focus mostly on smaller, medium-sized businesses and even micro businesses and nonprofits and startups and community organizations. And we work with them specifically because one, if you look at the data, they are often the ones to adopt technology slower, and and achieve
Yeah.
productivity gains
Yeah.
much slower. And so we think we can make a huge impact by reaching these smaller organizations and supporting them. And in our organization, we believe you got to just start now, just start somewhere. Don't get frozen in analysis paralysis with everything out there. Find their access to our platform has access to talent of all backgrounds, talent of all skill levels, who are eager and excited and who are learning these new skills and are ready to apply them in your organization to help get started in a super frictionless but super impactful way. And so I just say, just get started. and start, investing in these and do it in a sort of lean startup methodology where you're starting and biting off a small project at a time, seeing how that goes. If it goes well, fantastic, invest more into it. Add more resources, add more students, or add more professionals being trained in this, or then go hire a consultant. If it doesn't work well, shift, pivot, adapt. Just like students and workers need to be agile and ready to adapt, so do companies.
So I love there's like a mindset shift here. Like I love the way the mindset is shifting because like so we're on a like here at where I'm working now, like we're in the midst of a hiring process. I've never encountered how it's harder than ever to find talent, I find. Like I find that every CV is the same. Every CV is like this clearly made with an AI. We're trying to game them with AI. They're gaming us with AI. It's like two AIs talking to each other, and I'm not connecting with any talent. So, Ripen's Future Path program, you focus on learners who are close to graduation, ready to contribute. So, how does that type of a model help employers build a better talent pipeline versus the traditional recruitment that I'm doing right now, which I feel like I'm in the wilderness right now. So, how can this Future Path program help me?
You just nailed it. The job boards that came out, really which solved a major problem for many companies, which was reach. Like, okay, how do I get my job description in front of more potential candidates? Oh, great. These job boards with all its distribution help solve that. The problem is then all of a sudden you're just getting inundated with thousands and thousands and thousands of resumes. Applicant tracking systems have been built to kind of help you weave through those. If you're a small business, you might not be able to invest in that kind of technology. But of course, just like you said, in the era of AI, you've got AI enhanced applicant tracking systems trying to figure out how to work against AI enhanced resumes. And the system just keeps, competing and competing and competing with each other. So I love the way that you described that problem. In our world, we believe that the best way to be recruiting is through experiential recruiting. And so
Mm,
employers can come on our platform and launch projects that align with the roles that they have currently available or the
that is
projects they're working on
that is
today
epic. Yeah.
that will align with roles that are coming up in the near future. They use this as an opportunity to assess talent in a frictionless in a lower intensity, low risk environment where the individual can create a very positive impact on the organization. If the organization likes and it feels like it's a good cultural fit, then boom, they can hit the floor running. They on ramp faster. They can hit the floor running on day one and have a huge impact. And if it doesn't work out, no skin off your nose. There's lots of other ways to do projects on the platform and engage more talent and use this as a way to assess talent, build your employer brand, and then build this talent pipeline of pre-vetted candidates for upcoming roles in your organization.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds like a much better way to do something. Like, because it is so funny just how, sometimes I'll go through an interview process and it literally is like, I'll meet seven people and they all sound exactly the same.
That's right.
But then I never see their work ever. You know what I mean? Like, and this is an opportunity to see some work. But this takes me to sort of like, I think the big question, which is, you're at the forefront of the future of work. We've been talking about future of work, like especially with the pandemic, we've been accelerating that future of work kind of POV, you know, technology enablement, integration, productivity, AI, all of these things. Are you optimistic about the future of work? And two things, what is giving you sort of like that hope? Like what's giving you hope in the midst of this profound transformation on one hand, but on the other, what's keeping you up at night?
Totally. Well, yeah, I'm super optimistic. I see, we see signs all across our ecosystem of higher education institutions, government, alternative education, short cycle training providers, employers of all sizes and all backgrounds, innovating and investing in more flexible approaches to reskilling, upskilling, lifelong learning, developing the humans, the skills that make us uniquely human, investing in leveraging AI tools to increase productivity, to to continue growing, creating new jobs that wouldn't have otherwise existed, and then having talent, whether they come from within or outside of your company, to have the talent ready to go come fill those jobs. This is exciting to see. Um, I think, if you look back at history, all of these different, technology, industrial revolutions, they ultimately have created more jobs and we've netted more jobs than we've lost. What keeps me up at night is the challenge that through that process there are going to be a lot of folks who come on hard times. There are going to be a lot of organizations who come on hard times. I don't think it's never been, easier for someone to create a new company, to access talent through programs like Future Path to help them grow that organization in an extremely cost-effective way, to help them rapidly evolve and keep up pace with how quickly industry is evolving. There's never been an easier time to do that. But at the same time, things are changing very rapidly. Things are changing really quickly. So you just can't take your foot off the gas. You got to keep pushing. You got to keep staying in touch with what's happening in the ecosystem. I find the best ways to do that is be part of these communities, be part of these, organizations and communities, and like Riipen is creating, like Future Path and like Level Up and some of these programs where you can clearly see, you can see the trends, you can see what companies are investing in, you can see the types of projects that they're doing, you can see what they're getting out of those projects, and you go, wow, I could use one of those too. And then you can go and tap right into that talent pool and replicate that. So you don't have to, don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's tons of examples, and you can see live what people are doing, and then you can come and actually replicate those for yourself, and get a huge amount of value in the same way that these other organizations are doing it as well.
I mean, so this takes me to my final question, Dana, which is you're a founder. Like you're a founder, you've been, building your business. Uh, it sounds like a massively important part of being able to continue doing this is one is you got to have grit, but also mindset. It seems like you have this mindset that is designed for you to just absorb whatever is being thrown at you. Um,
Mhm.
how do you do that? Like advice for people who are watching this, how do you make sure that you have that right mindset no matter what challenges you're facing?
Thank you for asking that. Actually, I wrote a post on LinkedIn just a couple days ago, really about spending time in market. It's interesting. When we first started this company, we actually didn't have a technical co-founder. It was two business, students basically. The technical co-founder came later. Now has been part of our company for a very long time and is actually absolutely incredible. And it would be here without him. But in those very early days, when we didn't have a technical co-founder, we didn't get stuck trying to figure out should the technology do this or should the button be over here or what have you. We were just spending time in market, trying to get out there, pushing and presenting our ideas for folks, but mostly listening, asking questions, trying to learn what's happening out there. And we had a ton of hypotheses, and a lot of those hypotheses failed. But
Wow.
that's okay. I mean, I think what the mindset that we created, to your point around mindset, was that it's only failure if you don't learn from it. And if you can iterate quickly and you can fail and fail again and iterate quickly, you're going to get to that right answer faster. And then you're going to, and that won't be the last failure. You're going to fail again. You're going to make mistakes again. But if you learn from those and you keep iterating. And so when I mentor other entrepreneurs, especially student entrepreneurs, I say, don't be afraid to tell people about your idea. Trust me, it's probably out there already, but get out there. It's all about execution. Get out there and talk to folks, present your ideas, listen to the market, and be able to iterate over and over again. And that's advice that I would give to an entrepreneur. But what's interesting, or someone new getting into starting their own business, but I think what's interesting in the era that we live in today, that's the advice that all leaders should be taking, and all employees should be taking, is to get out there, listen, see what's happening out in the ecosystem, connect with your peers, get out there and start learning new skills. Pay attention to how the labor market is shifting. Ask your employer for new projects that you want to work on that align with your career interests. Go out there and access whether it's AI or short cycle training programs where you can develop those skills. But think critically. Don't offload your thinking to AI. Leverage it leverage your own human skills first, and make sure that any education or training that you're doing, that it comes with the opportunity to apply that in a real world setting, and actually learn from actually doing, and that way you can keep up with the pace. And I'd say the same thing to employers. It's just like, get out there, work on new innovative projects, don't get stuck just doing the same thing over and over again. Someone else who leverages AI and new technologies that are coming out better than you are will end up taking your business.
Well, and what I love, and then there's always this thing where whenever we talk to founders, entrepreneurs, business leaders, and we talk about AI, like there is sort of this emerging consensus of um, community,
Yeah,
people,
that's right.
human skills, like just getting being with people as almost like not an antidote, but as just this, it's an incredible complementary force to the force that is AI. But just the human connection is going to be hopefully massive as we go along.
Well, more important than ever. I mean, the human connection is more important than ever, and I think we can't lose sight on all this rapid transformation. Is just making sure that as an organization we're setting up structures for our employees where they get to leverage their human skills, and they work on higher level, more strategic types of tasks and projects that leverage those human skills, rather than having AI replace them. I think it's super exciting. We are very resilient humans, and I'm very optimistic that we're going to find a way through this, and we'll be actually better off than we were before.
Well, Dana, thank you for the time, and for anyone, if you'd like to learn more, you can email the crew at Riipen, futurepath@riipen.com. You can visit their website, riipen.com as well. I'm actually going to visit. Like I have like
Absolutely.
I have some projects that I need some talent around. But thank you so much for taking the time. And also I great, man, great solution. Just like even hearing the beginning of the story and just sort of the path from A to B or how you get to B, just that there's so many different paths, but knowing there's a solution here for employers and for employees is phenomenal. So thank you again for taking the time.
Well, appreciate it. Come check us out. If you want to know about trends and what other companies are doing, come talk to one of our employees. They speak to an unhealthy number of companies every single day. They know the challenges they're going through. They're often the same challenges that you're probably going through. They have a whole wide variety of tools and different projects that you can be engaging in. They're low risk, but they have huge impact. That's what we talk about at Ripen: small experience, big impact. So come on. We'd love to speak with you.
Amazing. Thanks again.